And here is none other than Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper. How are you today?
Doing wonderful.
Good. It's a beautiful day outside, isn't it?
Can't beat it. It's what I call San Diego weather.
Yeah, this is the best time of year. We have our special guest in the studio with us today is Gabriella Rosario with Family Care of Central Florida. Did I say that right, Gabrielle?
Yes, Family Home Care of Central Florida.
And we were just talking before the show. You're kind of like a lifelong Floridian, so you appreciate this kind of weather now as well.
This is amazing weather for Florida, so definitely enjoying it.
Yeah, because as we get closer into the summer months, then we're really dependent on air conditioning. But if it would be like this all year round, it would be terrific, wouldn't it?
Right. We have our windows open. We're super excited for this season.
No, it's good. So we are gathering around the radio, as you know, every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 p.m., lunchtime, midweek. And it's a great opportunity for us to catch up on all things helping seniors. And as you know, it's a pleasure to have you tuning in on 90.3 WEJF FM. And if you're listening online at WEJF.net, we appreciate that. And if you are a person who catches this as a podcast, we thank you for tuning in, because our effort as a 100% local to Brevard nonprofit is for us to try to do everything we can to empower you on what we call getting your aging plan together. That's what Joe Steckler, our founder, always talked about in his experience, first as a Navy captain whose last command in the Navy was the Navy's government retirement home in Gulfport, Mississippi, and then he and his wife had retired here to Brevard County, and he started the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation. And when I met him, which was 15 years ago when we got this whole helping seniors thing off the ground, he was talking about the fact that he had determined that as many times that families do have cognition issues, he goes, every family is going to be touched by senior issues someplace along the way. And he said, Kerry, we need to build an organization that is designed to help people get the information. So what people say, well, what do you guys do as a charity? And we say, we're about senior navigation. So for 15 years, we've operated the county senior information helpline. It's that free call. I'm going to give you the number, give you half a second to grab a pencil. That free call took more than 4,000 calls last year about everything from housing to legal to financial. How do I get good help at home? Medical, you name it. We've had the calls on it. How do I feed my pets during COVID? We took calls like that. It was really incredible. And so one of the things that we've learned along the way by taking all those calls is people really do run into a lot of things that they need help. And so what we do is we call it senior navigation. We're just trying to help everybody successfully go from point A to point B on the aging journey. And Gabriella, I know with your background in home care, you understand this as well, if not better than I do. It's kind of when you hit some of these things, it's like on-the-job training. The families, the spouse, the loved one, we just run up on a situation, and then we're trying to figure out how to get through it.
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of times we encounter clients and their families for the first time navigating through the home care process. And our goal, as well as Seniors Helping Seniors, is just really to help them navigate through the process, see exactly what they are needing, as well as their loved ones, and just helping them navigate through those waters.
So that's very well said. We talked, Joe called it making an aging plan. And for a long time, I had trouble wrapping my head around that. And I finally kind of likened it to, I asked him, I said, do you mean like a hurricane plan? We get hurricane plans living in Florida. Means we do not want the storm. We just want sort of a plan of attack. Like, how are we going to fight back if this thing is coming at us? Are we going to evacuate? Are we going to hunker down? Do we have the supplies? All those things that you think about when you put that together. That's kind of what aging plan is about. And so, Gabrielle, as you know, we kind of, to make it a little less serious sounding, making a plan sounds like, oh my goodness, I need to get a 3-ring binder and notepads and rulers and all kinds of stuff. We just say, let's help you get your ducks in a row. That's another way people use that expression a lot of times, like, let's get organized, let's get ahead of the curve. So when something is coming upon us, we have some idea about how we want to navigate that situation. And to that point, there's two things we've learned along the way. Number one, we say, don't try this on your own. Right. So a lot of times, and I'm sure you have seen this, like when you walk into a family for the first time and all of this is new to them, there's kind of like, I would call it, for lack of a better term, deer in the headlights looks. And then it seems like because you guys have done this for years, you're able to be that calming, steadying influence to help them chart the course the right way. Am I saying that right?
Yes, absolutely. Many times families, they wait until that diagnosis to start that emergency plan, like you're saying. But it's a very scary conversation to have. However, having that plan in place, knowing what are, your loved one's expectations once they're aging is really, really important. At Family Home Care, we always say we want seniors to age in place with dignity. So it's really good to know that course of action to take and to get ahead of the curve.
I was thinking as you were saying that too, because one of the things that I hear over and over is most of us say, look, I'm happy where I'm at. I like living at home. I realize I may have to make some adjustments as I get older, but this is my home. I'm happy here. I want to make this work here. And so when we say, first of all, don't try this on your home. There's a line, one of our elder law attorneys who's been a long time friend of the Helping Seniors organization. Her name is Amy Van Fossen, and she has a law firm called the Law Office of Amy Van Fossen. And I've never forgotten this, and I quote this a lot, and I always give her credit because I thought this is an interesting way to think about it. She goes, Kerry, when families come in our office, this is like maybe the first or second time in their entire life that they're confronting some of these issues that are involved in elder care. And she goes, we do 20 or 30 of these every week, and we've been doing this for 20 years. So there's not much that they haven't run into before. And I'm thinking that has to be the same for you. I was asking you about your own background. You said you had actually had an interest in law, but then you really found your calling was helping other people through what you guys are doing in family home care of Central Florida. Talk a little bit about your journey to get into that and why it is a passion for you and the expertise you bring to it.
Absolutely. So yes, as Kerry mentioned, I was going through the law journey and I did have a passion for that, but I did notice that just helping other people really is something that I'm super passionate about. And through, as I like to call it, living room visits, meeting with families in their homes, and just helping them throughout the process, whether it's, a client with early onset dementia, end of life, hospice. It just really brings me such a sense of fulfillment to be there and help them, be a resource to them, whether it's with home care, whether it's with placement, just being that kind of liaison for these clients who they don't know better. So just to use everything that we've had. I've been in home care for about 4 years now. So just helping them with what I've experienced with other clients is just such a sense of fulfillment to be that person a family can call at any time of the day and just kind of be a part of their family.
One of the things that I was really appreciate about you and the approach that you're taking with this is that you can always tell when you meet somebody if they have a real interest and care for what they're doing. And that's 90% of it. And that's why we say the second corollary, we say first, don't try this on your own. Get somebody on your side that understands what you're going to go through. If you're thinking about home care or trying to find some way to get some assistance, and we're going to talk a lot about that because we're going to talk about two functions in today's show. We're going to talk about how you actually help folks by sending caregivers into the home. But then we're also going to talk about something you guys are really absolutely on the cutting edge of, and that is the virtual family caregiver. And we're going to get into all that, but I want to say, so corollary number one to getting your ducks in a row is don't try this on your own. Connect with somebody who really knows what the road ahead can look like and how to navigate it effectively. It'd be, I use the example like if somebody was going on a deep jungle exploration in the Amazon, you wouldn't just take out your little guidebook and a machete and start hacking your way through the jungle. You would want to be there with somebody who knows, okay, let's watch out for this. This is something we could encounter. This is what you do want to not miss on the way, and all those things. So getting that help is good. The second thing, Gabriella, we talk about so much in the Helping Seniors world, and this is one of the things I really appreciate about what you guys are doing here in Brevard County, is I will say, do not call an 800 number and find somebody that's nationally. You'll see a TV And this has to do with everything. It has to do with legal. It could have to do with people who are looking for, we got to find a place for mom or dad or something like that. And they see an 800 number and they call that number and they may talk to a lovely person, but that lovely person is in Omaha and they don't know what's going on here in Brevard County, or who's good to work with or who's not good to work with, or who really cares and who doesn't care. Those are the things that happen when you talk to somebody locally, Gabrielle.
Right. And what I've noticed with that as well, in calling that 1-800 number, they will send you a million different numbers to contact and say, see what, is the best fit for you. And that leads to a lot of burnout for the families who are already navigating through being a primary caregiver. So just calling someone, locally is really something that just gets you straight to the point. I like to always go out to the family, have that assessment, see what's going on in the home, start making recommendations right away that will help them before they even start the home care journey. And it's just a lot smoother of a process than calling that 1-800 number.
Yeah, and there's another part to that, too. I get really frightened. We're doing something as Helping Seniors. We partnered together with AARP. We're doing a thing called Scam Jam, and it's actually taking place on May 16th. You're going to hear more about it because we're going to talk about it in upcoming weeks. I think there's only 50 slots available. It's free. It's absolutely free. But what it is, we're going to take that whole Friday and we're going to go from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Lunch is involved and included. Again, everything is free thanks to our friends at ARP. But what we're going to have is Corporal Beal from the Brevard County Sheriff's Office there. We're going to have our public attorney, Will Shiner, who has agreed to come by and share some of the things that they see in the public defender's office, or the public attorney's office, about how seniors get caught up in scams and things like that. We're going to have ARP who's going to bring all their research and let us know the latest things we got. It's really going to be a nice time. But the point is, we've got to work on keeping our seniors safe. And where this ties into home care is I get really scared when I see people go to like a grocery store bulletin board and there's somebody said, I will watch mom or dad for you for 2 hours. And you take that number off of the bulletin board and you go call that number and you're praying that that's a good soul. But so often we hear stories in the Helping Seniors world of people who are actually cleaned out from cases like that because you're not getting somebody who is a business who does everything by the rules, who knows how to look after seniors ethically. You're taking a chance. And then to make it worse in the scam world, Gabriella, and I'm sure you can probably tell me stories too, but we'll hear from folks who went through this process and then they declined to prosecute because it was embarrassing. So that same perpetrator just goes on to another bulletin board someplace out there,
Right, absolutely. And a lot of these times, they might have the experience. However, they're not insured, they're not bonded. So you don't really know who's walking into your home. Even if you do that interview, a lot of things seem to change after they're hired.
Yeah.
Things go missing. So it's really important to get with an agency. Agencies have standards through ACA that enforce us to make sure everyone is level 2 background checked. They're insured through us. So should something come up missing, that is going to be covered. You're in your home. You want to be safe and definitely have that peace of mind.
Yeah. So I want to ask that question. So, because I've heard that conversation a little bit. So you guys are an agency. So the people that are going into people's homes, do they actually work for you?
Yes. So all of our caregivers are our employees. There's a difference between agencies and registries when it comes to home care. So registries typically deal with 1099 or contracted employees. With agencies like Family Home Care, we vet all of our caregivers. So they have to go through a level 2 background check. They have to, have their driver's license, insurance on their car, especially if they're transporting a client. It's super important for that to be done. So we do our due diligence to make sure these are trusted people going into your homes.
See, this is a point that I really wanted us to kind of like hone in on because, what we have to do is we have to find people we trust and we have to know that all this is being done because I've heard some stories out there from some places where you brought somebody in, maybe you did pull that business card off the bulletin board. They're not a scam artist, but they get hurt. Right. In your home. Now they have a claim against you or you stop hiring them and then they go file unemployment on you and all of a sudden they decide you were their employer. Whereas when you get in touch with Gabriella at Family Home Care of Central Florida, all those headaches, I mean, I don't mean headaches, but I mean,
Right.
you guys know what to do with that. They don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and it's something you don't really think about. You're in the moment, I need a caregiver. This is easy, accessible, the price is right. But let's say a slip and fall happens, then you have that other thing that you have to manage. So it is really important to get with someone who is trusted, and an agency is preferable.
Yeah, can I say that actually a step farther, because what I think about is experience really matters.
Right.
When you have some experience in the situation and you're doing everything by the book, there is a phrase I like to use whenever I'm like, if I was going to buy a car, I want to know. I always use this phrase like tax, title, drive out. What is the total cost? And the key thing is, when you are looking at those costs, you have to make sure that you're looking at apples to apples, right? Because one of the reasons you might think it's good to call a person on the business card, on even the church bulletin board, doesn't matter where it's come from. That might be okay. That looks like it's $2 an hour cheaper or something. But that could be a very expensive $2 an
Right.
hour if something went wrong, right?
Absolutely. Yes. So definitely private home care is the most expensive form of care.
Yeah.
So it does come with a sticker shock for sure. But it is important to know the difference between what you're getting. So yes,
Yeah.
you might have a price break in hiring a private caregiver, but it does also come with liability and just some future concerns.
Yeah. And so that's one of the things I want to get into, because you found a really unique way to do this, that you can put the best of all things together. We're going to really devote like the second half of our show. We're going to get into some of the technology things that you guys are really cutting edge. I'm so excited that we're going to get to talk about this today. And it seems like, because obviously in a perfect world, if we could have help, we would have it as much as we could, right? We could have it potentially 24 hours a day, or at least during major portions of the day, but maybe sometimes our budget won't permit that. So we have to kind of like find the best compromise we can. And I think what you guys have put together between Family Home Care of Central Florida being able to come in as a fully licensed agency and help on that level, and then supplement and work it with really what I call 24-hour security and peace of mind through the virtual family caregiver. It's a neat opportunity. But before we get into the specifics about that, and I wish we were on TV. We are going to do TV. Actually, we're recording a TV show, and I want to make sure that you bring this back with you.
Absolutely.
Because I want to show people what this looks like in your home. It's so simple, and it looks really easy to set up. And we're going to talk about that, like I said, really in the second half of the show. Before we get there, though, I want to ask you, like, what are the kind of things somebody listening might give you a call to say, could you help me with?
A lot of times we get calls. It might be as simple as, can you take my mom to her doctor's appointments? I can't do it. I work a full-time job and she has several appointments. Is that something you can help with? So yes, we do help with transportation to and from doctor's appointments, or if you have a super active client who has dementia and just has sundowners, and is up throughout the night, we can assist with overnight care, even just short visits while family members are at work. There's a lot of different scenarios and a lot of different calls that we get, and it's unique to each client, but we're able to fit a schedule around their care needs.
One of the things, as you were talking about, and I was thinking too, every caregivers group that we've ever been connected, and we've been involved in a number of them. There's a group that comes and does an annual caregivers conference. And, they talk about, much like they give you the little lecture when you get on an airplane, make sure you put your oxygen mask on before helping those around you, because if something happens to you, you can't help the person around you. And this is a real problem, I think, for caregivers, whether it's the spouse or it's just the family that's trying to look after mom or dad. So number one, we can get burned out real easy, and then we're of no good to anybody. I remember one of the most eye-opening calls early, or this was very early in helping seniors, and it was from a 92-year-old lady whose caregiver was her daughter. Now, daughter was like turning 67, 68, was having to go into the hospital for something, and she was going to need care, and certainly mom, who needed the caregiving, couldn't. And it was a real, like, I never had put myself in that space to think about that. But I guess you guys run into stories like this all the time where you're really called in to give some help, some respite.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that. A lot of times it's respite care. So for that primary caregiver, maybe they're going on a work trip, they're hospitalized. We're just there to support. That could be companion care, or it can be the normal care that they're typically giving on a day-to-day basis, but they're away for whatever reason. So respite care, I always say, it is for that primary caregiver. And it's okay to ask for help. You know, you can't be available 24/7. And sometimes just having that break to run to Target, get groceries, these are things that a caregiver's in your house, you trust that person, and you're able to go with that peace of mind that your loved one is taken care of.
It makes so much difference. What are good ways for people to learn about all the services that you guys offer? If somebody's saying, like, I really do need to think about this would be a good avenue for me to go, how would they explore more?
Absolutely. So we have our website, which is Family Home Care of Central Florida. You guys can go on the website to do that. We're also on Facebook. And we do have our office number, which is 407-641-4306. You can call that. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can give us a call on that number. And just ask for Gabriella, and I will help navigate you through that process.
Good. And I want to be careful to make a note, because even though many of us would think 407 is an Orlando area code, and you do service a lot of Orlando, you guys are right here. Your caregivers are local, so you're talking and working with people here in Brevard County, right?
Yes. So we're in Orange County, Osceola, Seminole, and Brevard County.
Yeah. So it's important. So when I talk about you calling somebody, you're going to speak to Gabriella. Who are you? Actually a person who goes out and meets with the family?
I am, yes.
Oh,
so
wow.
I do help with the assessments. I do those living room visits, as mentioned. And it's that face-to-face. I feel like just having that interpersonal connection just brings that sense of security to the family. So I always make it a point to go out.
Okay, so we're talking with Gabriella Rosario. One more time, the phone number to reach and the website. So
absolutely. So it's 407-641-4306. And our website is just familyhomecarecf.com.
You know, we're going to have a really good discussion on the second half of the show, because I really want to talk about this virtual family caregiver process. This is so cool. You will not want to miss this. We're going to talk about that, and we have some other news about the Helping Seniors car raffle and things like that on the second half of the Helping Seniors radio show. So we will see you right around the bend for more Helping Seniors radio today.
Kerry Fink is the executive director and the host of our show, Helping Seniors of Brevard. And Kerry, looking forward to a good second half of the show here. Sounds like it should be interesting.
It is. I am so excited about this. John, you know, as president of the Helping Seniors organization, and you have been involved with this also since the day Joe started Helping Seniors. And actually, you go back, you have more experience in this even than me, because you were going all the way back with Joe and Brevard Alzheimer's days. But, you know, the need is so great for senior care. And what I'm really excited about is what we're going to get into in the second half of the show. We're talking about this. I'm looking at this little blue box, and in it is a real solution to help manage senior care. And I'm so excited to welcome back Gabriella Rosario. And we're going to talk about this virtual family caregiver. Now, you guys have the agency that is here in Brevard County that can really help people at home in general. But a lot of times, I'm sure when you're talking to families, one of the challenges for them is that they say, well, we really need this much help, but our budget will only afford us to go this far. And this is where this whole concept of stretching the technology in place keeps the safety factor up as high as it can be without, actually having somebody physically there and eyes on and all that kind of stuff. But talk a little bit about how you guys came to the idea that this is a good idea.
Absolutely. So, so we obviously have received many calls for people looking for care for their loved ones, but budget is not always, enough to help with 24/7 care, to have someone there at their homes at all times. So we have invested in a technology that basically helps seniors without having that caregiver in their homes. Maybe they're resistant to care, maybe it's the budget, but this technology is something that would just go into their walls, into their high, traffic areas, like their kitchen, their living room, their bathroom. And what it does, it's auditory clinical notes that it takes. It's not a monitor or a camera, but it takes a baseline for the client's normal activities. And once it notices any changes, it could be a cognitive change, it can be a medical error, or even a fall. That's the biggest thing. It will trigger the system and give us these real-time alerts so that we can contact these family members. We can talk to the client and figure out a care plan for them.
Before we go into the actual mechanics of how this thing works, and it's fantastic, is I wanted to talk about just what you said, a care plan, because we were joking in the mid-show break. I said, has this ever happened to you? And you basically said, what we find is families, will come down and visit mom or dad. They retire down here because they love the weather and all things good about Florida. But, maybe the rest of the family is still up north or out in the Midwest or out West Coast because they're working, they're in their career, and they come and visit mom, and then they go home very shocked and feeling like something has to be done right away, because every time I call mom, how are you? I'm fine.
Right.
And then they show up and they realize, wow, this is not fine. You guys walk into that almost every day.
Absolutely. So a lot of times, just like you said, they're giving these daily calls to their parents, but they live, up north or in a different state or even just a different county. And they're just taking their parents' word for it. And then they come and they realize, oh, this is a lot more intense than we actually even know. So we do run into that problem a lot.
And you guys really then are able to offer peace of mind and guidance. That's what we'll go right back to when you're making that aging plan. You get somebody you can know and trust. And what I love about where we're going on this part of the discussion into this part of the virtual family caregiver. That's what you guys call it, right?
Yes,
am I saying that right?
family.
Okay. So I was saying during the mid-show break, so our insurance company sent us a little thing. It's a block about the size, forgive me for saying this, about the size of a cigarette pack, and you plug it into your wall, and somehow it's monitoring the line voltage in our house. And this is important enough to our insurance company that they actually pay for this. It's like no cost to us. They say, we just want you to plug this in. It's going to monitor your voltage, and somehow it alerts them if there's a problem that they would be able to determine maybe there's going to be a fire or some other electrical problem. So here they are, and they promise, of course, it's not invading your privacy and all that, but there are a lot of jokes about that anyway. But so anyway, it's kind of cool because every week, I'm sure it sends the insurance company a report, but it also sends us a report, and it gives us a little bit of peace of mind. And they're like, okay, everything's cool. Not that I would have had any idea everything wasn't. So this is a little bit more, as I would say, in your face, because this is cool because it's very passive. It's the same idea. I'm looking at this, and it's about three little, smaller than an index card kind of things that you would plug into your wall. I guess maybe there's three, maybe there's four. It depends on how many areas you're trying to monitor. And then it all is connected through your home's Wi-Fi. Am I saying that right?
Well, we actually provide them with the router.
Oh, okay.
So you don't even have to have Wi-Fi. We bring the router. And I like to say it's a holistic approach to care. So like you're saying, it's passive. We put this in and it's HIPAA compliant. So it's non-invasive. It's less invasive than our phones, So definitely it just, for those clinical notes, and it just picks up on the keywords, key phrases, and key sounds.
Yeah, I know we're going to record a TV show together, I think next week, and I really want to be sure that we're showing this, because when you see this, you will see how unintrusive this really is. This is what's cool about this is, I don't know. We had a problem because we were caregivers for our mothers, and we had a problem. My mom had a little bit of dementia, and we tried to get her the help I've fallen, can't get up kind of button, but she would have trouble cognitively understanding, like, I need to use this now. In fact, she could be in the next room and not let us know that she had slid off the couch or something like that. And so what I love about this is that it's using all the good things about technology to kind of get what's normal, and then triggers when it sees something not normal. You were showing some examples of what it can do, like during the break. Talk about some of the things, because not only do you install the technology, but you're the point of making sure that it's all working correct. So it's kind of like you put this in, and then you can kind of be hands off. So you get your help when you need it in the home with the in-home care. And then this is watching the other 20, well, however many hours you're not doing the home care, but you really are getting round the clock help.
Absolutely. So I'm so happy that you brought that up about the pendant or the push button. A lot of times clients do not remember to press that button, or it's in the other room.
It's
when
in
they
the
fall.
other room. Right.
So it doesn't help. So this is something they don't even have to think about.
Right.
It just triggers the system, and then we're able to make that call to their families, make sure that they're okay. And some other things apart from just the falling aspect or the feature that this provides. There's also, if there's a memory impairment issue, it picks up on that and generates it in the care report. If they have any respiratory issues, we have a lot of clients with COPD. And to be able to bring this care report to their doctors is such a huge help to them. Also just, anything that should be monitored, like heart issues, medication errors. These are all things that the system will pick up on. Even, signs of increased depression. It'll increase on that and show us in real time what is going on so that we can inform the families.
One of the things you had mentioned that recently you'd even seen like a fire alarm had gone off. And so because of that, you were notified and were able to see pretty quickly that, okay, we don't have to be like overly concerned. But
Yes.
Isn't it nice to know that somebody can take a look and see immediately what's going on? So it doesn't matter where you are in the country. You could be up north, or you could live, I'm telling you the story in our family, literally in the same house, and stuff would happen, and you wouldn't know because she had the button, but wouldn't think to push it.
Yeah. So it can be, useful even if there is a primary caregiver in there, just to have those things. Also with caregivers, it'll give us feedback of positive interactions, negative interactions. So this is super helpful. If there is a caregiver in there, we want to make sure they're praising our clients, when medication's taken. And if there is a negative, feedback, then we're able to correct and coach our caregivers
and
as
get it going right there.
Right.
See, I love that, because I always used to have this. Some people say, well, I don't really. I'm concerned. What about these privacy issues? Well, first of all, this is like you just mentioned up front. This is all HIPAA compliant, which
Yes.
means that your privacy is right there. It's no different than you sharing medical stuff with your doctor. It's not going to go anyplace except right with you guys, and you're there just for that one purpose, to make sure things are going the right direction.
Yes, that is correct. And we have access to, these reports, and it comes actually directly to myself. So if there's a fall, it calls me right away, and then I'm able to make that determination with the families of our next steps. Do you want me to call the client? Should we dispatch a caregiver? Should we call EMS? So these are different avenues that we can take according to whatever we've planned with the family.
One of the things, and I want to stress this, because this is available to individual families. So if you're hearing Gabriella and I, we're talking about this, and you're saying like, well, I would like to come up with a plan like this for my mother, my uncle, my whoever it is, my spouse, who, depending on what's going on. And this would be great peace of mind, even if you think like, I have to pretty much be at home, but I am going to run off to the grocery store. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to do that. This is giving you an extra step of peace of mind, even while you're away.
Yes, definitely. So it is peace of mind, and to have a 24/7 virtual caregiver is something that I think, honestly, anyone can benefit. It doesn't even have to be geriatric clients. We have some clients who even are in their early 20s. They suffer from seizures, and for them, it's important to have this. So should an event happen, someone will be coming to their aid.
Yeah, let me say that. I hadn't even thought about it until you just mentioned that. It could be that you're home alone.
Right.
How many times have we had these stories come up on the Helping Seniors where it literally was an interested neighbor who said, well, Mrs. So-and-so isn't out for a couple of days, goes, knocks on the door, and then they end up having to call for a well check, and they find the person has fallen. So maybe especially if you're living alone, something like this could be a real, real benefit.
Yes. And many times if somebody is living alone, we have, heard of horrible cases that they're on the floor for hours, and
Yep.
they have no help coming to them. So in having something like Virtually Family in their home integrated into their everyday life, we're able to figure these things out right away, have an emergency response plan in place, and make sure that they're safe.
Yeah, I just want to say this: as good as a button might be, if maybe your cognition is not a problem,
Right.
but you could get in a situation where it's not possible for you to access that button for whatever reason. You could be unconscious or anything like this. Having a system like this really could be a lifesaver.
Yes, and we have had amazing stories that just come from this. Families love this. Even if they have care, they love to have that, weekly report given to them. They can bring it to their doctors. They can show either, the progression of a disease or, things are going better. And so it's just such a nice tool that I think every family should have, no matter where you are in the care journey.
And I wanted to say this, like I mentioned, this is available to individual families, but this is so powerful. This technology is so powerful now that you're finding assisted living facilities and other places where congregate living is happening. You're finding that they're taking the service as well.
Yes, so we have worked with a lot of facilities, and we're putting these into, resident homes as well. And what is really nice about that is, typically they have a 10 o'clock call that they're calling the residents, making sure they're okay. But should something happen at night, then we're able to give these facilities, the access to our system, and then they're able to navigate through that with their team, and make sure that their residents are safe at all times.
So, and this is a point that I want to bring out. So if we call you and we're asking about the virtual family caregiver, this is not something we're buying from you like a one-time purchase. This is actually a service. You're going to help us all the way through, right?
Yes, absolutely. So we do have a monthly, fee that we do. We can always take it out, should you not want it any longer. But yes, we help you navigate through the process. So if it's just the monitoring system for a few months and then you realize you need care, then we can integrate our care plan and our caregivers into your home as well.
So it's really based on what you and your family need versus rather than particularly. But here's where I was going that with, because I say when we talk about technology, I think today the technology is going to be the worst that it's ever going to be, if you follow what I'm saying. So already you're saying this system is noticing things. I think we talked about, am I saying this right, that it could figure out from flushes if a routine is off with restrooms signaling a UTI or things like that? Talk about some of the things that it can actually give you clues towards.
Absolutely. So the first day, it takes a baseline of, normal activity, what is, your normal day to day. And then should it trigger the system to say there's been 15 extra toilet flushes, it'll let us know that there's a potential UTI. So it's predicting that UTI before it becomes a severe UTI, so that we can inform the families. They can get that test strip, go to their doctor, and get medication sooner rather than later.
I was thinking about when you were talking about UTIs, how often this is misdiagnosed. Our director of development, Nancy Deerdorf, I think you've met Nancy several times. Well, she's registered nurse by trade, and she went into what somebody was very near and dear to us in the Helping Seniors world. She was in visiting with them because they had to be readmitted from a skilled nursing facility back into the hospital. And the question came up, well, you have tested for UTI, right? And you would have thought that was the first thing that they would have done. And the answer was no. And guess what they found when they tested? UTI. And so as you know, people get Baker acted over UTIs and things like that, meaning that can totally give signs of dementia and all kinds of other problems. So when you're able to start to look at these things ahead of time, and this is my point too, it's like if something goes off, it's not like the SWAT team is going to surround your house. It's going to go to you, and you're going to get a chance to look at it and say, okay, this is how we need, because I guess first you're going to make sure, is this a real thing that we need to see what's going on, or you have a whole protocol for that, I'm sure.
Absolutely. So definitely we'll see what the normal client is like. Is this something that's normal? A lot of times, like you're saying, with severe UTIs, there's cognitive decline. The client sometimes is very disoriented. So should we notice that trend continuing, then we will come up with a plan and say, okay, Mr. Johns, let's start to get you to the doctor. Let's start doing different things. So definitely not a SWAT team going to the house. It's a step-by-step process.
Well, and again, the point that I want to get at here is it can do the monitoring and be of a help 24/7 in a way that, you probably wish you would have the resources where you could have help 24/7. But for most of us, that's just not really even remotely possible.
Right.
But this is a neat bridge because you can get the help that you need when you need that help directly, to help you right there in the home. But at the same time, then you can have the peace of mind. And I assume particularly if you're a good son or good daughter, and I think, most of us would aspire to be that, we're always concerned. And I remember a day when we had our mothers living up in Atlanta. We eventually moved them to Florida so they could be close in with us. Although, as I mentioned, they could be in the same house and you can still run into these problems and not be aware because they just wouldn't sing out, like, hey, I'll just sit on the floor till somebody comes and gets me.
And a lot of times it's it's an embarrassment almost to these. That's how they feel.
Yes,
I don't want to be.
I don't want to be a bother.
I don't want to be a burden. And it's not burdensome. But we can definitely help and make sure that they have the tools that they need. This is just a stepping stone, I like to say.
It's really the fact that you can get ahead of curves because we say, we started out the show talking about how in the world of helping seniors, we're there, we'll take the call, we'll try to get involved and help any way we can. But we sure love it when it's a it doesn't have to be decided today. Like somebody says, well, in the next couple of months, I got to do this. Okay. Now we have a lot of options. We can figure out the best plan. We can say, have we tried this? Could we look at this? Because when you're under pressure, think about it. Decisions have to be made fast. Your options are limited. And so almost by definition, you forget the budget. There is no budget. It's whatever it's going to take, right?
Definitely.
So by being smart and giving you guys a call and saying, I want to find out about this virtual family caregiver plan and how it could impact my home, I would think my goodness, it can't be that expensive to have that kind of peace of mind. Look what we pay for car insurance. Look what we pay for house insurance or renter's insurance. I mean, having insurance, you're like the most valuable thing in your house, right?
Right. Definitely.
This would seem like it would be almost a no-brainer.
Yes. And it's, I would like to say it's fairly inexpensive. It's $99 a month.
Wow.
So this is something, that...
And you're getting 24/7
yes.
help.
Virtual assistance.
Wow.
Right.
So think about it. You're not having to invest in... Now, are you signing a contractor?
There's no contract. It's just a service agreement. Obviously, we want you all to know it's HIPAA compliant. There's different things that we've put into place for the client's safety. But yes, that's all you sign. It can be month to month if you would like.
So if you think about it, I'm just going to say for about the equivalent of $25 a week.
Right.
I mean, you can't fill up your car for $25 a week.
Not anymore, unfortunately.
I'm just saying, think about what the peace of mind, whether you're the parent, whether you're the spouse, whether you're the person who's living by yourself, think about what that might mean to you in terms of ability to have some peace of mind that that somebody is looking after you and checking. And, I just to the point, God forbid something goes wrong technically with it, you're going to understand that and be on it. So it's not like they even have to maintain or figure that part of it out, right?
Yes. So that's something that we are able to look at as well. It shows us all the networks, make sure that it's in connection. So the router, if, something happens, we're able to give a call. Hey, can you, plug in the router again? And if that's not working, we'll just come switch the system. But we're always on top of it to make sure we're getting these alerts.
You know, Gabriella, I think when we first started talking about this, probably more than a year ago, it seems like, and you were explaining that you guys were moving into this, I was thinking like, this has got to be like the future of home care. Not because it replaces what you do coming into the home,
Right.
but what you can do in the home is really limited, in reality by the amount of time that somebody could be there. Unless somebody has unlimited resources they could do 24/7,
Right.
they can be efficient about how they make use of the help in the home, but still know that they have the security and peace of mind the rest of the time. This is a great tool.
Yes, it's amazing, honestly, and I do believe that it's the future of home care, and such a great tool for anyone.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to learn about this, maybe they want to find about, again, because you guys, again, we talked about the first half of the show. You're a full agency, meaning that when you put somebody in their home, they're an employee of yours. They're an extension of what you guys do. And so you have that peace of mind. But then if you talk to you about the virtual family caregiver, this is a whole nother dimension. How do people get in touch with you to talk this over?
So it will be the same number as our agency. So it will be 407-641-4306. And that's just our main line. You can ask to speak to Gabriella, and I will definitely help navigate through that. We can set up an assessment similar to the home care assessment, get, exactly what's going on with the client, and then set it up right away.
This is terrific. So I really want to encourage you. And again, your website.
Our website is www.familyhomecare, C as in Charlie, F as in Frank.com.
Good. And I think this is so important to check out. Like I said, we're going to film a TV show. We're going to try to show a little bit of this as well on that part of it. So I want to really thank you for sharing the information, because we're only as good as the information that we have that helps us on our aging journey. I have just a minute or two left on the radio show, and I want to talk about something fun that's also our fundraiser. So as you know, for years, this is actually going to be our 9th annual, but we do a car raffle every year that literally funds our little nonprofit. We always tell people, like, we can only go as far as people who get behind us will allow us to do so. And the car raffle, Joe Steckler started this years ago when he was trying to build the Joe's Clubs with Brevard Alzheimer's. And then he brought that that fundraising answer over to helping seniors. And we've been doing car raffles for a bunch of years together with our friend AJ Hires, who is the head guy of Boniface Hires. They have one of all the great car dealerships here. And that's why we call it Choose Your Adventure. There are 7 great cars our winner gets to choose from in the car raffle, and it all comes together on Sunday, October 26, 2025, at the American Muscle Car Museum. Owner Mark Pylock, once again, is kind enough to open up his doors for a Sunday afternoon fall extravaganza. We're going to have so much fun out there at the museum. You got to get a ticket. Tickets are now available. You can actually find them on our website at helpingseniors.carraffle.com. It's real simple. 1 is $25, 5 is a $100 donation. And we have some special things to talk to you about what getting that 5-pack is going to mean to you as we go along. But you can get them at helpingseniors.carraffle.com, or you can call our Helping Seniors info line. Maybe you missed Gabriella's number and want more information or whatever, just call us at 321-473-7770. They can also get you set up with those Helping Seniors car raffle tickets. Well, that's the time we have for Helping Seniors Radio today. Thanks for joining us. We will see you right back here next Wednesday. Have a great week till then.